السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الخلق وسيد المرسلين، سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Mashallah, it's nice to be with you all on this blessed Friday. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful, even though, we're Bismillah. Actually, yeah. Even though we're locked down in this pandemic, we still have the ability to connect, and we still have the ability to find ways to spend a little bit of time together, even if it's in this virtual way. So we're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. Imagine if this had happened, um, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, even 20 years ago, we wouldn't have had the means to connect that we are, by which we are connecting today at these difficult times. So alhamdulillah, that in and of itself is a great blessing. Dear brothers and sisters, I want to talk today about a subject that is kind of helps us put everything in perspective. As Muslims, as believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book, as believers in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find tremendous solace and comfort and wisdom in the different things that are mentioned to us, that are taught to us by Allah, by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, excuse me. That really allows us to deal with difficulties in the difficulties that we have in life in a very dignified sort of way. And I want to share this with you. I want to share a couple of things with you in these few minutes that we have together. First, I want to share with you something that was written by Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars of our ummah, where he talked about the trials or the difficulties, the bala, the different sorts of ibtila, the different sorts of imtihan, tests, and struggles that we face in life, and we don't have the ability to push back on them. In other words, we don't have the ability to change this situation that we're in. And indeed, these days that we live in, we don't have the ability to change the fact that we can't see our family the way which we're used to. We can't go to the masjid. We can't gather. We can't. There's so many things we can't do. So he talked about 4 different states of being, 4 different maqamat that people will face these struggles with, right? 4 different human states of being that people face their difficult life conditions with. And the first state of being is what he called maqam al-jaza' wa shakwa wa sakhat. He calls it the station of being someone who's panicky and complains and who is upset at what is going on. So some people, are just not content, and to the point where they, why is this happening? They're freaked out by what's happening. They complain about the fact that they can't go to work, they can't go to school, they can't do this, they can't do that, because we're locked down in this pandemic. And Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says this is the reaction of people with little or no iman, people who have very little moral dignity. They don't have the ability to to see beyond what is going on immediately and how that is impacting their lives and the negative situation that it puts them in. And he says the second state of being is what's called maqam as-sabr, that you have to be patient with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this case, or other human beings in other cases, right? In other sorts of tests and trials. Huh? Oh, yeah? Okay, thank you. Exactly. Okay, we're just making an adjustment. The second station is being a patient and being being patient with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if the calamity is from Allah, or if it's in, if it's somebody else is doing this action upon us, then we're being patient with them. And that is something that's wajib. That is something that all Muslims must react with when it comes to any sort of difficulty, any sort of trial. That's a non-negotiable. And a patient person deals with the musibah. It's tough, it's difficult, it's a struggle. We don't like it. We may not be happy, but we are patient. And that is the minimal level that a Muslim needs to deal with difficulties in life. The third level of dealing with these sort of, or this third category of people that Ibn al-Qayyim he relates, he says, he calls it maqam al-ridha, the status of being more than just patient, but being content with what Allah has placed in your life, being content that, well, I may be taking a hit financially in these times. My kids are not in school, and that's difficult on the home. Everything is, upside down these days. But we're not just only patient, but we're content. Ya Allah, this is happening for a reason. There is khair in this. There is good in this if I approach this the right way. So we don't have any regrets. We fully accept what has happened. Right? That's how a person who has rida, who has contentment, will deal with this. And then the highest state of being, as Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he says, he calls it maqam al-shukr, the status, the state of being grateful. Somebody who is going through some sort of difficulty, and many people would be anxious from it. It would jolt them to their core. But the believer who's reached this state of being, they're actually thankful, because the person sees the baliyya as ni'mah. This person sees the test, the difficulty, sees it as a blessing. Understands that this is a part of life, difficult things happen, and ultimately that this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person is actually thankful for Allah putting them through this test. And that understanding that this musibah is actually a blessing in disguise. And for, many people, this may seem something that's out of reach. But when you think about your life, you think about the life struggles that you had, and you think about how you gained a different perspective, how you grew as a person when you faced different calamities in life, and you actually saw that you became a better person. So you can see that in your own life, right? So it's important that when it happens, at the time it happens, that you have that sort of attitude. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عند الصدمة الأولى, that patience is at the first strike. When that difficulty happens to you, at that moment, that's when you want to be patient at that time. That's the time to be patient. Not after the fact and, okay, alhamdulillah, I accept what Allah has put in my life and so on. No. At the time when the calamity strikes, that's the time to be patient. So I want to talk about a couple things. Excuse me one second. In these days, subhanallah. So how can a test be a blessing? And this is important because the person, if you want to reach these higher states of being, well, then you see that this test that you're going through, in this particular, this is a collective test that we're all going through. There's some hidden blessings in that. And before I go into that, it's important to have a deeper understanding of the difference between, or a deeper understanding of a ni'mah and al-bala, of blessings and of tribulations. Al-Qasimi, he says something beautiful. I'll read this. He says, know that there is no blessing in this world except that is also a test. Know that there is no blessing in this world except that is also a test. So not only are calamities a test, but blessings are also a test. And it may be that a person who is poor and sick, if he was well and had money, he would not be faithful. It may be that a person who is poor and sick, if he was well and had money, he would not be faithful. So, understanding both sides of the coin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. And if Allah increased the rizq upon his servants, they would transgress in the world. So we see that Allah is telling us that it is in the nature of human beings, when there is too much good in their lives, too much ease, people forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they forget about the source of where that came from. So how does one be thankful when they are poor or sick? How does one be thankful when they are physically impaired in some sort of way, when they are emotionally struggling, when they have some sort of mental health struggle that they're going through, when somebody has financial struggles, somebody's sad because they are married, meaning they're in a bad marriage, or they're sad because they're not married, or whatever the case may be. How do you reach this higher status of not only being a patient, but reaching a level of contentment and ultimately a level of shukr? Remember, we said the 4 stages. Number 1, a person who, the lowest stage, and which is outside of iman, is somebody who is panic and hopeless and so forth. The minimum level that a mu'min deals with it with patience, and then comes rida, contentment, and then comes shukr, right? These are the levels: patience, contentment, and thankfulness. How do we reach this highest level of thankfulness? How do we actually strive to deal with difficulties? What is that mind frame that we put ourselves in? So I'll share a few things with you. Number 1, 5 things that I want to share with you briefly. If we understand these 5 things, we'll be thankful no matter what. 5 general understandings that we want to put in our life. Number 1, that every trial we go through, we understand, we know that the trial could be bigger. Every difficulty that comes in our life, we realize that, this could have been worse. That's the attitude of a believer. I heard recently of a story of a young lady who was in a very bad accident, and she got physically injured. She actually broke some bones, but on the on the car ride home from the hospital, she wasn't worried about um, it wasn't the injuries that were bothering her, the physical injuries, but she was actually emotionally struggling with some other things. And she said this could have been so much worse. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that this wasn't a this accident wasn't worse. I didn't get hurt in a worse way. I didn't lose my life or something like that. So subhanallah, if we put that in mind always, and you look at the pandemic in light of this could have been so much worse. We could have seen so many more people dying. We could have seen a disease, a plague that struck every single household. And it could have came to us, even if we're in our own homes, we could have been afflicted to it. We always want to take that outlook, because that helps us to deal with the reality that we're in. Now, we're always thankful that something is not worse. Secondly, we're thankful, and we're thankful that the musibah, that the trial didn't afflict us in our deen. And this is so important, that we weren't tested in our iman, that our iman wasn't put into question, and it wasn't something that we had to sacrifice. That's why the dua that we know, Allahumma la taj'al musibatana fi dinina. This is a very important dua. Allahumma la taj'al musibatana fi dinina. Oh Allah, don't test us in our deen. Don't put us to trial as it relates to our deen. Meaning that there were times and places, and there are Muslims today in the world now who, because of their deen, because of the fact that they believe in La ilaha illallah, they're being persecuted, they're being oppressed, they're being placed in concentration camps in China. There are Muslims who live in Gaza, in Palestine, who live basically in an open air prison, the world's largest open air prison. There are Muslims in Burma and the surrounding areas who are being forcefully removed from their homes and persecuted in horrible sorts of ways. So the reason why that's happening to them is because of their belief in La ilaha illallah. And we're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the difficulty that we're going through now, this particular pandemic, it's not something that's related to our deen. A third thing to keep in mind that will always help us to keep in the right frame of mind when difficulties come into our lives. It is possible that the pain that we faced in this life could have been in the next. It is possible that the pain that we faced in this life could have been in the next. Our pain here is temporary. And this is the point. Our pain that we feel in this world is a temporary pain. It comes and it goes. And we're thankful that it's not something that is not persisting beyond a period of time. Right? These are things that we need to kind of internalize inside, so that when difficulty does happen in life, we're able to cope. We're able to deal with it. Not only we're able to cope and deal with it, that's patience, but then we're content with it. And then not only that we want to be content with it, we want to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it can be a point of growth. It can be a great way of coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fourth thing to keep in mind is that the struggles that we face now are predetermined before. These are matters that are written fi al-kitab. These are matters that are written in the mother book. We believe as Muslims in qadar. We believe in fate, in predestination, that things are already determined before they take place in this world. So having that understanding, knowing that this was meant to happen, you know, doesn't get us into the mindset of saying, well, if only such and such, then this wouldn't have happened, right? And that's why the Prophet warned us about using the word low, if, because when you use the word low, it opens up the doors for shaitan. If I only did this, then this wouldn't have happened. If I only did this, then this wouldn't have happened, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها. There is no musiba, there is no calamity that strikes in this world or in yourselves, except that it has already been written. It has already been uh, written in the book before it came to be in reality. So understanding that can also be of great comfort. That, look, this was supposed to happen. There was no way for me to avoid this, whether it be what we're dealing with now, or the pandemic, or anything else in life. The last point, and we'll end on this, um, that the pain we face now is minute compared to the reward that we will get later. When we, subhanAllah, when we deal with life's difficulties and we deal with them with dignity, we deal with them with acceptance, with rida, we deal with them with shukr by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what happens? What's the benefit of that? Where those difficulties, life difficulties, get written in our book as good deeds, as hasanat. So ultimately, we're the winners. We're the ones who have so much to gain by dealing with these matters in a dignified way. And we grow as people due to struggle. That's the sunnah of life. That's the way of life. That's how life works. That's the natural order. And we achieve Allah's pleasure when we face the struggle with dignity, right? Struggle is going to happen. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. We have created man in a state of turmoil. There's always things going on. But the way we gain Allah's pleasure is by facing those difficulties with dignity. And this applies in all aspects of life. No pain, no gain. You will not become healthier until you put yourself through a regimen of forcing yourself to eat foods that are healthy, which may not be as pleasant. You force yourself to get into an exercise routine, which takes work. If you're sick, you take medicine. The medicine doesn't taste good. It's painful taking it, but ultimately you come out better as a result. And so that's what life's tests are about. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to always be thankful, for us to always be grateful for what He's given us. We have so much that we've been given, even though we are in these days where life is not normal. We're not able to, the fact that we're having to give this virtual talk is a testament to that. We can't see you in person. We can't meet you and greet you and hug you and kiss you and express our love for all of you. And I love all of you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't do that. And subhanAllah, it's you know, life is not the same. Life is not the same, especially when we don't have the masjid, we don't have this gathering place. Life is not the same. But we're content and we're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to understand and to explore His wisdoms as to why that is. So may Allah increase us in thankfulness. May Allah increase us in patience. May Allah increase us in rida. May Allah increase us in all things are good, in all things that are good, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use this time and our and our patience that we are displaying with what's happened in our lives as a means of being raised in status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to bring us close to Him in these times. We ask Allah to bring us close to our families in these times. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. We will see you all next week, inshallah. And we're going to be increasing some of our programming coming up. We'll start having more weekly reminders, and Ramadan is fast approaching. Ramadan is very fast approaching. Next week we'll talk about a little bit about the middle of the 15th of Sha'ban. We're almost halfway through Sha'ban, so use this month. Strive. The Prophet would fast in this month more than any other month. So use this month as a way of getting prepared and ready for Ramadan. May Allah help us all. Assalamu alaikum.